All that to say, what I wanted to share today is this is our Smart Care for those of you who use Smart Care for your EHR. This is our EHR. And on the last call a couple months ago, I mentioned a little bit about a great learning tool that is called WalkMe Through. And so I was going to demo that this morning. Feel free to pause me at any moment if I click too quick, or if the lag on the video is too much or something, I can pause or whatever. So here is again our EHR. Any screen that you're on, this little widget down here is laid over top of the screen. So it's not actually part of our EHR, but it's part of the URL. So the system plugs into any website that you want to use it on. They charge you per URL that you have it connected to. So we have it connected to our live environment and also in our training environment for Smart Care. But you could also plug this into your actual company website. You could plug this into your intranet for additional costs for each of those URLs. So when you click on this, this is what the user would see. And during new employee orientation, everybody has onboarding tasks that they're assigned. And basically, this is just kind of role specific. Right now, we kind of just have, I think, 3 or 4 different buckets that people fall into. I'm working with our application analyst, who is kind of the administrator for WalkMe, to recategorize them all. But for now, it's pretty broad, pretty general what people get assigned. But I'll just go ahead and pull up one here I think is a good to demo. Well, let me back up. So yeah, basically during new employee orientation, this is how we train on using Smart Care, is that they actually use these, and you'll see in just a minute what that looks like. But they go through each of these different tasks to really get hands-on learning. Then after they've done NEO, then they can come over here, and this is just a repository of a whole library of trainings, including ones they've already taken and other ones that they can search at any time. So one that I'm going to do here is just search for a client. And each of these, you can tag keywords to these that then that would populate. So you don't have to know the exact, title of the WalkMe. But if they wanted to say, I'm having trouble with so-and-so, then if we've attached those keywords to various WalkMes, those would pull up. So I've just clicked on client search, and now it's begun the WalkMe through. So that's what these little bubbles here are. So you customize everything. You tell it where to point to, you tell it the instructions, you choose the type of functionality. It's very robust, lots of customizability. Everything, even so much as like, do you want this little arrow right there? Do you want it coming over to the left? How close do you want it? The text size, it's all super customizable. It's really great. So I'm going to go ahead and do a client search. So then it's going to give me prompts as I go here about, what's required, what to search for. And then it's recognized, without me pushing anything next on that bubble, it's recognized that new things on the screen have populated that we're telling it to look for. So what we base this next feature off of is if anything populates in this section, it's going to automatically progress to the next step. So it's just telling me to choose the client I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep it on that client. We're going to hit next. And then the next step here is to select. And it's going to, behind in the grayed out area, we've got this test client open, and then it's now you're completed. So you're now in the client's chart. And again, we've given it all of these, prompts. So that's really the power of WalkMe, and all of these, everything from, that's just a really basic feature of pulling up a client, but there's, how to schedule appointments. There's how to write a service note. There's how to do an assessment, a treatment plan. And what I'm working on with our WalkMe administrator here is to use them really more clinically, of not just how do you get to these spots in Smart Care, but what do you do once you're there? what type of questions should you ask? What type of information are we looking for in these various fields? So really to give them more of a really in real time, being able to walk through their task with assistance, as opposed to looking at like a job aid or a video or just a PDF of like, hey, here's what you should do. We can put that right on top of the system and do it that way. One other really great feature that I will pull up as well, they're called information bubbles. Here's one here. So this is also part of WalkMe, and you can, again, these just lay over top of each web page, and you tell it exactly where to put it. And this is also part of WalkMe. And I think they call these smart tips. Actually, we just kind of call it info bubbles, but you can customize the color, the icon. And then when the user hovers over it, just a little helpful information about what is this section all about. So yeah, is there anything else people would like to see with that? What questions or what thoughts you guys have?
Well, Jesse, this has been SmartCare has been a sore spot for our staff.
Yeah.
And lots of questions are coming to mind from kind of the infrastructure around this and resource allocation and cost.
Yeah.
To impact it's had on NEO, for example.
Yep.
Your onboarding processes. And then the third one, I'd maybe start there, which is what feedback are you getting from your staff on this?
Yeah, so great questions. Those are exactly some of the questions that I had as well when I came on board, because I was like, my kind of misassumption before was that it was just for onboarding. And then I realized, there's so much more we could do with this. And so right now the feedback is really just limited to orientation. And the feedback's pretty good because they're actually able to hear the presenter, our application analyst, who is actually the one who trains on how to use this system. Then I do an additional training on another day of actually clinical documentation. So right now the feedback is just pretty much limited to saying, yeah, this really helps me not just have to try to follow along as the presenter is talking, but I can actually then go click and it tells me exactly where to click in the screens. And then later they're able to re-reference that. And I would say most people, it seems like, are using it, within their first couple months of work, but then after that, they don't really go back to it. So, and I don't know the cost off the top of my head. I know it is, it's definitely a fair cost, but we are part of the effort of our executive team approving us keeping it going is like, let's use this for more than just orientation. And so that's why I expect there to be more feedback of, for the comprehensive assessment, for example, one area that some of our teams are struggling with is like the cultural assessment of, okay, yeah, sure, I know how to get to the spot in SmartCare, but once I'm there, what do I do? What do I need to enter in? And so, for example, we could overlay any of those fields with a little info bubble here, and then we could have sample questions. Hey, here's how you ask about culture, or here's a way to help the client think about what that means to them. We haven't done this yet, but you could actually even embed a short video in one of these little info bubbles that they could hover over this and then click play. And so I'm thinking about like, maybe there could be a role play video in the info bubble that would show them like, hey, here's how you talk with somebody about suicidal risk, So there's a lot of features that we haven't even tapped into it with as well. That's kind of where I'm wanting to take it though. I will show you too, as far as time, the initial setup time was really pretty involved. It's my understanding, and I wasn't on the team when we rolled out SmartCare, but when they realized that Streamline, didn't really supply as good of training material as they thought they would be, they kind of made a last-minute scramble to try to find some type of training system. And Tracy actually knew about WalkMe and suggested it. They got it going within a couple of months before our SmartCare go live. And it has, I think without it, it would be a much bigger struggle to get people trained on our EHR, especially when we transitioned from our old EHR over to our new one.
Yeah. And then just maybe before others have questions, one of my last ones was just around, now that you've got it up and going, and what frustrations or drawbacks do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I think probably the feedback from, as far as frustrations from staff using it is if the developers if our developers make changes to our EHR, and then we forget or we don't know about going into a WalkMe to change where that little icon points to, it could be totally pointing in the wrong spot. And so then obviously that's worse than not even giving instructions at all, because it's going to tell them to go to an incorrect spot. And so sometimes it gets a little finicky as well. We really do press upon users to say, hey, make sure you read exactly what the prompt says, because some people will get into it and they'll start clicking ahead. They'll say, oh, I know where to click. But before clicking next on the window, or they kind of beat the system and the system gets confused and then it just shuts down and you have to relaunch it. But it is smart enough to know, like, if you relaunch that one you were just in and it recognizes the screen you're on, it will actually go to that step. So let's say you're halfway through the WalkMe, it will resync. If everything is working correctly, it'll resync back up with where you were at. And as far as on our end, as kind of like, there is a fair amount of setup ahead of time. I have a little bit of technology experience, and so I'm comfortable kind of playing around with it. But really, for some of the more of the complex WalkMes, it does take a fair amount of time to to set those up, and so you really would need a champion who could probably take this on as I would say a good probably 10, maybe 10-20% of their job. But if that person's job already is training on EHR, then this would be part of that. That would be this is a training tool to potentially help reduce how much time it's taking now. Their selling points are the reduction of help desk tickets. So people could go to this first before putting a ticket in to say, hey, I'm having an issue doing XYZ. Well, their first step is to go to a WalkMe and see if we have a WalkMe on it before they put a help desk ticket in. So those are some of the kind of how it balances out.
Okay. Other questions from the rest of the group?
Yeah, I had a question. So when we're doing EHR training, we are currently using what we call a cheat sheet, and it's just a book of everything with screenshots. And so obviously this would help a lot, because sometimes people struggle to look at that and look back at the screen. But I guess I just wanted to kind of clarify how you guys have maintained documentation that those concepts are being are soaking in and that the person understands. Are you still doing some type of documentation that they completed the training?
Yeah, so there's two different ways actually. So the first main way is that they come to a training in person, all day live training for SmartCare. That's the second day of orientation is all day with our applications analyst who does the training on it. And then she uses this, she uses this in the afternoon, kind of more of a self-directed training. So that's part of how we track that. But then also, which we haven't done too much, is the second part is this piece right here. There's a whole, what they call WalkMe University, that has a bunch of analytics that you can actually analyze who's completing these trainings, very similar to an LMS. And then you can see which ones are most utilized after the initial completion, like what ones people are going back to, what ones aren't people going back to. And so we haven't used that as a piece of to track the required elements of this, but it is a good helpful indicator that you could use to say, hey, until this is 100%, you have 30 days to get your WalkMe trainings to 100% for those new employees. You could do that. We haven't because it's a little bit finicky in the sense of it hasn't been updated since we've made a lot of updates to SmartCare, and so some of them are don't function as they should. But that's on us, not on WalkMe.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And kind of like a learning management system, can you set deadlines within the WalkMe of like you said, 30 days, or are those deadlines more you administer them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not positive if there is a spot where you could say, set a deadline, because this here is all the user sees. There's no like sign in. There's no, so I wouldn't say no because I'm not positive, because I'm still getting up to speed on all the features it has. And the more I learn, the more I realize I didn't know that it can offer. So I think it probably would mostly be your own communication to say, you know, you have X amount of days to just click in here and make sure that you're all the way going. The other side of that, like, I don't know if leadership, like their supervisors have access to see like subordinates, if they can track that, or if there's a way to report, you know, say send an email to like a team and say, hey, your team has not done all of the WalkMes. Yeah, I'm not positive about all of that.
Okay, yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is anybody else familiar with something or another software like this people have seen in their current company or other agencies? You know, and now that I know about it, I've actually started running into similar softwares on just random websites. Like if you click, it'll tell you go here. They use this a lot for like Salesforce, to guide people like on a website of where to click, what to order, filling out forms. So to my understanding, we're kind of unique in, not the only one by any means, but using it for, you know, medical records and so forth. That's not necessarily their main focus, but it really has helped us tremendously.
Jesse, I haven't seen anything similar to this. This is a new concept for me. I mean, I'm really grateful for you taking the time to share this. We're very much struggling still with some smart care issues, and they weigh pretty heavy on our employee engagement scores. So
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to sharing this with our QA folks to see what thoughts they have and ideas around next steps.
Yeah. And the other thing, I was trying to get signed into the other side of it, so I could show you guys as well real quick here, is this is what the desktop application looks like for managing all of the trainings. If I click this little feature here, this will actually snap it to the screen. I won't go in because I might break something, but basically these are all of the trainings, that the WalkMe throughs that we have. This software is really complex, but just to kind of give a quick general overview of this part, you know, these are all the different types of features that this offers. I showed you guys a smart walkthrough, and then I also showed you guys a smart tip, but they have a variety of other pieces. You know, for example, like this launchers thing that's really interesting to me is if you click in one spot, it'll automatically tell the website to go to a different spot. So like you could have, you know, instead of having a developer code in a new button on the page, you could just use a WalkMe to help them connect to a new spot in whatever website you're on. So those are all the different trainings there. There's also surveys, which we haven't used at all, which is interesting. But yeah, this is where you would create, customize, edit, update, and then this is where you publish all of the trainings, and then it publishes onto your actual website.
It's very slick.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with it. Like I said, I think the biggest shortcoming for us is just on our end. There's a lot more it can offer that we want to take advantage of. So we're just trying to allocate the staff time to get them up to speed and make some new ones. So we're pretty excited about it.
Okay.
Cool. If nobody else has any questions, I'll pass it back over to Kevin.
Everybody good? Okay. Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know if were there any more folks that joined in other than Sierra and Tony and myself and Jesse while Jesse was doing that presentation?
Well, this is Natalie with CBHC. I've been on the line listening. It's great.
Oh, great. Hey, Natalie.
Clear.
Hi, this is Jessica from Aurora. I'm new, so this is my first time joining the call.
Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
Glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, me too. Jesse, thanks for that overview. I was on mute, but we're very much in the same position as I think you just said, Kevin, there, and I'm new, so I'm just learning around. Smart Care is a major pain point. It's coming up in all the meetings. People are really, really not happy with the support and the bugs, and I think we just rolled out in August. So when this meeting becomes available, I'm gonna send it to our quality folks because they really are, struggling to get in front of this. So.
Yeah, let me just say the other thing I've been really impressed with WalkMe, and I'm not getting any royalties from them or anything like that, because I kind of, in hindsight, I'm kind of like, man, I should ask for a little compensation before I pitch this so much. But it really has been great. And what I wanted to show two other things I just thought of in light of folks thinking about rolling it out for the first time is they have two great websites. Once you are a member, subscribing to their software, is they have WalkMe University, which is all about for the trainers. So how you build. So it's like somebody without any developer skills. First of all, this is designed for people who are not developers. You don't need to have IT development skills to be able to do this. If you do, then you can even go further. But they'll walk you through every single little piece of the process on how to do them. And then analytics is what I was talking about as far as being able to analyze. Let me go to the activity log here and see if this will pull up. Yeah, so this would show all of the WalkMes that folks have completed, and you can really just go crazy with analyzing all of your trainings and seeing how people are helping. And really, like I said, the big piece, Jessica, you mentioned with that their staff are feeling not helped from the support of the help desk, is that this is really designed to be a first-stop shop before the help desk, so that the help desk isn't getting overwhelmed with just basic questions on how do I create a new client, how do I schedule a service, how do I do this? That's what the WalkMe is there for.
And I guess I'm thinking now ahead a little bit, Jesse. We're not letting this go here for a minute. I'm thinking about the Compass implementation coming up, and
absolutely,
I'm seeing some really interesting. We've already started the conversation. Oh my gosh, how are we going to do all this training, and how are we going to help staff move from the current model to the new one, and learn some new terminology? And this could be really, really helpful to help manage just another round of change with the EHR, so that as Jessica, as you're saying too, that we start to figure out how to minimize some of these pain points.
Yeah, and for purposes of, I know that some of you are wanting to maybe present this to your QA. Let me do a little bit more of a complex walk me through, so they can really get a concept here of what this is going to look like if you were doing something like the Compass. Okay, so let me back up here just for recording purposes. So again, it's this application here. The user would click on this, pulls up this search screen. So for our CCAR, which eventually is going to be the DII, they can then launch this. So it's going to first say, can you see your client tab? And no, it would direct you to search your client. If yes, and again, we've customized all this text and these steps. So if yes, we click next. It's going to direct me to click on my client tab. I'm already on the client tab, but to follow the prompts, I'm going to do that. Directing me to hover over documents, hover over screeners, CCAR, click CCAR. Going to direct me to enter an effective date. We actually have that auto-populated now, so that's an example of when we might need to change. Use tabs to navigate through the CCAR. And this might be another example of one where it got tripped up on something on the screen is missing. Let me see if I can relaunch it here real quick. Yeah, I'm actually going to make a note of that one as a matter of fact, because it's getting tripped up on something on the screens is not connected. which is why it wouldn't be going to the next section, because it'll always say done when you're on the last screen. But the point is that would actually walk you through each individual step. And so especially like you're talking about the Compass and the DII, when that comes out, we're going to really want to develop a very more in-depth WalkMe that would walk them through each section and tell them what to enter and where. Okay, now I think I'm done. Unless people have more questions or curiosities, I'm happy to play around with it and show you more if you're interested.
Well, thanks so much, Jesse. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.